Sai Narendran spent years as a product leader at HubSpot and Mural before co-founding bullai, a company that does something very simple. It tells you exactly how much revenue you're losing because ChatGPT, Claude, and Perplexity can't see your website. Then it fixes it. His core claim cuts against almost everything that companies are doing right now. Most AI search problems aren't content problems. They're actually engineering problems. He'll explain how a no-name fitness app used that insight to outrank brands like Nike and Peloton on ChatGPT, and why he thinks the next 2 years are a closing window for small companies to win a category that giants haven't even figured out yet. So, Sai, you went from writing code at LinkedIn to running product at HubSpot and Mural. What pulled you out of engineering? I'm curious.
Yeah, I think it's when you own a product, you kind of feel a little bit more like a CEO in a sense of you get to work with the business side of things, you will get to work with the engineering side of things. And yeah, it said trying to reconnect, so I just want to make sure that it's all good. But can you hear me? Am I frozen or anything?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah,
Cool. Sorry, yeah. So let me restart. So essentially, when I started my career, I was a software engineer. I did computer science, loved engineering, still love to code and love engineering as well. But then started my own first company, failed tremendously, but learned a lot in that process. And that's when I realized when I went back into the workforce that product management was kind of the ideal gap to fill in both the engineering needs and the business outcomes. And yeah, loved working on products, loved scaling them, working on all different aspects, working with the customer, but also working closely with the engineering team to be able to bring that to life as well.
nice. And so you went from writing code at LinkedIn to being a product manager at HubSpot and Mural. Essentially, you own the product, or you became the person who owns what a product becomes. Um, and you called that role essentially being the internal CEO. So, what were you? What does that mean, like on a day to day?
Yeah, on day to day, you sync with your engineers. You do your daily stand ups if you're, technical, and you're able to understand from the coding aspect of, hey, this is what our bandwidth is for our engineering team. So you don't want to overpromise to the customers, and then then your engineers are kind of just overworked, and over time that creates resentment. Kind of understanding
Yeah,
the nuances in that sense, but also being able to deliver features that actually matter by having customer interviews, listening to customer feedback, and not all feedback's gonna be great, right? So you got to understand, hey, this is something that actually makes sense based on the metrics we're seeing of customer churn on this aspect, and tying all business objectives along with engineering outcomes is building out whatever software product in that sense that you need to build out.
yeah, nice. Makes me wonder though. Um, if you're at that position and you're essentially like owning, that much of the process, what made you want to go start your own thing?
Yeah, I think I've always wanted to start my own thing. I think I always will. It's one of those things that, yeah, I mean, you can work a 9 to 5, you can do meaningful things, you can build out, like a career, life for your family, all this stuff. But I think at the end of the day, like I always have this internal, thought process of I'm working a 9 to 5 to build somebody else's dream, right? It's at the end of the day, this is like my growth, my whatever I want to build is going to be capped at, hey, this is what I can do. There's a box of what I can do at somebody else's company. Versus if I start my own, work on something that I'm passionate about, I mean, it can, grow to whatever level you want it to go to, or, it can die out too, but that's a risk I'm willing to take. And I feel like I've learned enough in those experiences to always have that security of going back to a 9 to 5 if I ever want to. But I feel like this is the time to do it before I have kids, before I have like, pay for their tuition, this and that. I can take these risks a little bit more, and I'd rather do that now than later.
Yeah, nice. Is there a specific kind of trigger that pushed you to go down this route, or you just kind of felt like it?
No, I mean, I think like every company wanted to implement AI and they didn't know how to. And I feel like me and my co-founder, who's one of my good buddies from college, who's also a software engineer, he's been at Amazon and a lot of other FANG companies as well. So we were like, hey, like we want to do something, outside of work. So we started Bull AI as kind of like an AI consulting company where we worked with a lot of enterprise level companies, help them incorporate AI or build like full on software engineering, like full stack apps for their companies. And yeah, we kind of made that pivot into a product about a year ago for the AEO aspect of things, but that's kind of what got us started. We got it started from like building out AI systems for clients, but that sales process is a lot longer.
SEO related or non SEO related?
We just full on like AI systems for your chaos. So for example, like it for your podcast, we would have a conversation. Would be like, hey, this is where you're not implementing AI. This is a certain AI, like agent or something that we can build out for you, or
Okay, yeah.
full on software engineering. And that's kind of where we started Bull AI as. That's why the name is Bull AI instead of something super AEO specific. But
Okay, so just automations in general, whether it to do with like customer support, whether it be to do with finance reporting or whatever, right?
yeah, or full stack development, like full software engineering as well. But yeah, exactly. Like for
That's
one like a couple companies, we've built out like a full application of this. That's what they do on a day to day. Like they were
okay.
pen to paper before, and now they have full software that they operate their businesses on. But
Yeah, sick. So what does Bull AI actually do in plain English?
so now our primary product is AEO, and in plain English, I hate this comparison, but it's SEO for the AI world, for AI search. It works completely different. It is completely different in every aspect, but that's the easiest way for people to understand. And search was the most investable, biggest industry for so long. That's why Google is what Google is, right? And that whole consumer behavior is changing in the aspect of people are starting to trust ChatGPT for certain things because you can keep the conversation going. For example, if you're asking for running shoes, then you can be like, okay, well, I want one with more cushioning. I have plantar fasciitis. That's not something that's a Googleable, conversation that you can have. It's so based on that, the consumer behavior is changing. So the way you rank and the running shoe companies that want to be number one get that sale is a lot different than the way that Google works, where it's always the giants that win out on Google versus in AEO or AI search, we have small companies outranking the Nikes of the world, the Apples of the world, and all these massive companies, which would never happen from a traditional search.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm excited to get into that because we'll talk about one of the case studies, the Freeletics one.
Yeah.
But I wanted to kind of talk about, so essentially most people hear you're invisible on ChatGPT and think they need better content. You're saying that's wrong, right? Why is that?
Yeah, I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying it's the piece that matters the least in the aspect of that's what everybody sells. And I mean, if you think about it from a business aspect, yeah, every marketing company that or agency or that were an SEO company that worked where there were schema changes, there were very small like marketing type changes or content changes that you can repackage and you can sell it as AEO, right? So that's why that information is constantly out there. But at the end of the day, that doesn't move the needle the same way engineering changes can, because the way LLMs ingest data, they work in two ways of when you do a search. One is either live fetch, as in that moment, it's searching the web and trying to find the correct answer, or it's using its index data. But for example, if you look for Father's Day gifts coming up on Sunday, if you look for best Father's Day gifts of 2026, when you say 2026, it wants recency and relevance, and it's doing a live fetch in that moment. So if your code is not optimized to be found by these LLMs, then whatever content you write, whatever you do does not matter. It's not even going to show up. It can't even render your site. It can't even read you or find you. So,
Yeah.
so
And
the
what
way,
what do you mean the index data as well, by the way, for people who aren't as technical?
yeah, sorry. So when a model gets trained, right, it gets trained um, pretty often. It's indexing all of this data from the internet, from its top sources like Reddit, YouTube, Wikipedia, and all of these sources, as well as just the entire internet in general, right? It's training its models, and that's when it doesn't have to do a live search. It's giving you information based on the query that you ask. But if you ask something that requires some sort of live search, like, hey, this is this verse, this best product management software, or best something, which is what you're going to do for a lot of product related queries, then it's going to use live fetch more often than not because it wants to be as recent as possible in its answers.
Got it. Okay. And so what does a website have to, what does it, how does it have to be coded for it to be, able to be read super effectively with the live fetch as opposed to like, the other side of things where it's not?
Yeah, and that's the best question you can ask. It's the sense of every front end of a website nowadays, I wouldn't say every, but I would say 95% is built on JavaScript, either, React on the front end. And so it looks great to us when we go on a website. It's super clean, all the animations scroll and all that stuff, like when everything happens. It's beautiful for us. Google can read that. Like Google's bot can read that. So OpenAI's bot or any other Perplexity bot or any of these other bots cannot. They only see a non-existent page because it's a JavaScript front end. They need a static HTML front end to be able to even parse what's going on the page. But before that, you also need like a sitemap.xml, which is kind of like a table of contents that points to all the pages within your domain. And there are just a lot of other technical things that a lot of people are not doing. For example, your CDN, like Cloudflare, is where your website's hosted from. Most people don't know that, but and Cloudflare, as of 2026, automatically just it turns off a lot of these bots. So, I mean, those are
Oh, I
things
think I'm losing you there, Sai. It's reconnecting, I believe. It's showing that your thing is reconnecting. Okay, I think you're back.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, did you want me to start over on that, or did you kind of pick up
Yeah.
from? Sorry.
Sure. Yeah. Just summarize it, I guess.
Okay. Yeah, so I mean, when you go to any website, it's going to be a JavaScript front end, like a React front end, right? And Google's bot can read that very well,
Yep.
right? And Google's built on that. But the majority of other bots, like OpenAI's bot or Claude bot or any of these other live fetch bots, Perplexity, they see absolutely nothing. Because we as humans see it, Google sees it, but these bots just see nothing. So even if you are the answer, for example, right? Like when somebody asks, what's a great founder podcast for me to be able to go on, Demand Dive should come up, right? But the thing is, your website might not be optimized to be able to do that. So even if you are the right answer, ChatGPT doesn't even consider you as an answer because it can't even find you, right? So when you make those changes in even a static HTML front end or server-side rendering changes that you make, then you can be the answer. And sometimes for certain very targeted queries, like when somebody asks for a certain type of coffee mug that is black and preserves heat, that only one company could be the answer, and they have their whole website built around that, then they would be the answer. But they just can't be because ChatGPT doesn't see them and read their website the same way we do, right? If it could, then it would always recommend them as that answer. So what we do is we make sure like your company can be the content that ChatGPT ingests, and you can be the source for your own information. You don't have to rely on what Reddit says about you or what Wikipedia or Quora say about you, because you can also control the narrative, right? And those happen from coding changes and not from content changes. Those are just being able to understand how LLMs ingest data, and we make sure you are primed to be that answer for the majority of opportunities where you can be over, however many prompts for that would bring you up.
Yeah. Okay. So that's interesting. So you're saying that if if your website wasn't optimized with this static HTML and someone in that scenario was looking for like a black mug that specifically insulates heat or something, if it doesn't find your website, would it pull from the index data and just give you a general answer from Wikipedia and stuff?
No, but it's going to find other answers that are close to you, right? But if you say you're the perfect answer for that query, it's still going to find other black mugs that preserve heat. But say you're the best at that, right? You are just the app, like that's the one thing you're built for, and no other company is. That's no other company is branding themselves as just that. It's still going to give all the recommendations from a live fetch. It's just going to find your competitors instead of finding you, and it's going to do that from either, if their competitors' websites are optimized, then yeah, it might pull from them. If not, then it'll pull from Reddit, and it'll pull from user behavior and customer experiences, right? Like Amazon reviews and a lot of other things. There's so much, so much data it can pull from. We're just making sure that you could also be the source and be the top source when the prompt is so particular in finding you. When it looks across the web, it finds you first and then it recommends you first. But right now it can't do that, right? Like your mug company that it wants to find, you're just not optimized for it to even read. So once it reads you and it sees, hey, you're the perfect match for what this person's asking for, then of course it's going to recommend you over anybody else just because of the way everything is set up and the way you're marketed.
And what if your competitors are already they have their websites, super optimized for
Yeah,
search as well? So
exactly.
what happen? How do you gain an edge over them then?
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Like AEO is such a new field that there are people that are starting to invest in AEO and GEO, and it's kind of like, you're fighting for position at that point. At that point, you have to understand where you want to optimize for. You're not going to win all 200 queries asking for a black bug, but you can win that specific query where it's like, hey, insulated black mug that traps heat for 20 hours or something specific that you do that no one else does. So you can win all of those queries, right? And
Nice.
then
Okay.
the thing is it's non-deterministic, which is kind of the great part because just because you're the number one that shows up this time I ask ChatGPT, it doesn't mean the next time I ask the same question, you're going to be number one, but your positioning is going to be higher, right, than it was in the past. So, like for example, Freeletics, they were invisible. They didn't show up at all ever, and now they consistently show up number one, number two, number three, but most often number one, number two. But it's non-deterministic in the way that it works is, which means that every single time it could change. Like you can ask it 1 second later, you'll ask the same thing, and the ranking might change, but overall, the where it ranks is going to improve, and that's across however many prompts you optimize for and things you do. And that's the piece where content will start mattering after you've made the engineering changes.
Interesting. Okay. So specificity helps as well, but also things like improving the content, after getting your website, optimized with code, right?
Yeah, couldn't have said it better myself. Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Awesome. I'd love to dive into the Freeletics case study because I know that's like one of your strongest case studies, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
sure. Just because.
they went from basically invisible to outranking Nike and Peloton, I believe, on ChatGPT, right?
Yeah, and Apple Fitness Plus, and yeah, like massive billions and billions of dollars that you're never gonna, outrank on Google. But yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's awesome. What did like walk me through what their situation was like before you got involved, and then essentially, we'll go from there.
Fair. Yeah. So I mean, Freeletics is a pretty decent sized app, but most people haven't heard of it, right? Like it's got 50 million users and all these things. So they had some sort of domain authority already, right? But the thing is, they never showed up when you ask for best AI fitness app or best app for home workouts or things like that. And now, I mean, you can go to ChatGPT yourself. If you type that in right now, you're going to see them pop up very frequently, right? And it's most often number one or number two. But the thing is, before they didn't even show up at all. Like they were just not even visible. So yeah, if
Hold
you
on,
type,
let me actually try this real quick. This is gonna be interesting.
yeah,
This
yeah, like best AI fitness app or best app for home workouts or any of the two. Yeah.
best AI fitness app. Okay, let's go. Let's put you to the test, Sai, putting you on the spot.
Yeah, it's a little nerve wracking because it's like I said, it's non-deterministic, but yeah, I mean, more often than not, it's going to show up pretty high up.
Yeah. Okay, for some reason it's not working. It seems to have it seems to be saving you here, man.
Yeah, yeah, I
No,
wanted to
I'm
show.
joking.
I wanted to show. See,
Okay, nice.
so
Second, yeah.
before they would never show up ever, right? So then if you hover over that source where Freeletics is, no, underneath, like where after the word gym, yeah, and then go through the sources. I guess you can go
Two
down.
sources.
Yeah, or if you can go down all the way and then click on sources at the bottom. And you can go through all of these sources and see how like every single time these queries are pulled out, right? So it's a lot of like as you can see, this is all live fetch in the sense of hey, this is all pulling from the internet and pulling from all of these different sources. So essentially, Freeletics is number two here. Fitbod is a competitor of theirs that always kind of interchange, but as you can see, no, Nike Fitness didn't even make this query. A lot of times it shows up like number four, and yeah, I mean, and all these other competitors were, they're I assume they're probably doing some sort of AEO because they're also showing up now. But essentially, Freeletics was invisible for this query, and 135 other queries. So we built out that prompt library where we had 135 prompts where we see their visibility across all 4 engines to start out with. And then we go ahead and optimize for which prompts increase the revenue the most, or like whatever their target objective is, right? We work hand in hand with them. And so, for example, like if, it might not just be something like this. Say New Year's is coming up and a lot of people have New Year's resolutions to lose weight, right? People are like, hey, like what should, like for prompts you wouldn't even think of, just kind of like, what are New Year's ways I can improve myself? And you want Freeletics to be maybe even just slightly mentioned there, where it's like, to improve yourself, go try a new hairstyle, go practice working out more and try Freeletics, like things like that. You can also optimize yourself for non-queries that are just trying to find exactly what you're doing in a sense as well. But yeah, so I mean, we optimize over 135 different queries for Freeletics, and we've increased their domain authority. And what this does is it builds citation authority within ChatGPT and all of these LLMs. Since it pulled from you as a source and it already trusts, hey, you're a good recommendation, over time, it's going to give you the citation authority of, okay, Freeletics is someone we trust. This is a source that makes sense, this is somebody that we want to recommend. It builds that authority over time. So you're going to be recommended across all different types of queries in the future as well.
Nice. Yeah, that's super solid. How long was it, until you saw like any meaningful movement with that when you applied all these changes for them?
Yeah, and I love that question because that's what makes us so fundamentally different from any other AEO company. We started seeing it within 8 weeks, so within 2 months to 3 months, right? Every other company promises like 6 months to a year, you'll start seeing some movement. Like we can almost guarantee it because we understand how these LLMs use these engineering changes we make. And that's why it makes such a big difference, because they show up way more often, way more frequently and quicker. And then over time it compounds. So that's where the change from live fetch versus being indexed over time makes difference. Every other company is trying to get you indexed by content and marketing. We focus on the live fetch aspect, which is the most important for businesses. And then we also focus on index later on after all these engineering changes are made.
Yeah, nice. That's awesome. So what would you say is like the very first thing that you fix for them, just to kind of lay it out in a order?
Yeah, so I mean, the first thing, I'm trying to think, because like every client is different, but yeah, I think for Freeletics, first thing was it was the way that they're rendered, right? So they couldn't be read or rendered. So first, because they didn't have a sitemap.xml, which is a simple file. Any company can go do this. If you don't have a sitemap, it's going to take 10 minutes. Just go build out a sitemap.xml for your website. So it'd be whatever your website is, like, demanddive.com/sitemap.xml. See if you have anything. See if you have a skeleton or anything, right? That's your table of contents. When a crawler comes and tries to find you, they're going to see like your robots.txt and your sitemap.xml. And that means that, hey, from there, it knows where to go, right? Like it's kind of a table of contents of, this is, if I'm trying to find this information from your website, this is the / domain that I want to go to, the URL that I want to go to, right? And that's what your sitemap.xml should do. And then your robot.txt file is something that every company should also have, where it tells that crawlers can go ahead and, crawl your website. So those are the first two easiest and biggest impact changes you can make. And then after that becomes code changes where, hey, when it gets to that URL, can it even read that site, right? And for most people right now, it's a no, because they're built on a JavaScript front end. And that's where we go ahead and make strategic changes. And if you have an engineering team, we'll work closely with your engineering team because our team's full of technical engineers. But if you don't have an engineering team, for example, a lot of companies that we work with just have a Shopify store, right? So like they have a Shopify storefront, and then we have to be that engineering team where we ship those changes and code changes, and we tell you step by step, hey, you're not.
Unfortunately, the recording did abruptly end here, so this is going to be part 1 of 2 parts of Sai's episode. So stay tuned. The second episode will come in the near future.